We're live, boy. Do they want us to come live or not today? This is the Chicken Box. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Thursday. Hope you're not in a part of the world where you are freezing. If you are, stay warm. Stay warm. Stay warm because we got something that's going to warm you up today. It's Black people versus community activists. Activists. Have you ever thought about it? Do you think about it? Do you see them? Are you aware? Is your awareness up? I'm Kevin Impeccable Peck. Are you aware of the activists that are around you, that are around this space, that are around this globe? Well, the Afro-American newspaper for 130 years has been around activists and been activists themselves. And so we're going to activate today, y'all. We're going to activate. Misha Green, I see that smile. That smile is infectious. I'm going to tell you, if you don't like people, smile. it does something to you. Dr. Draper, let me see that smile. Oh, the smile is getting, we activating smiles, we activating feeling good. When you talk on the phone, smile. How are you this afternoon or morning or evening?
I'm well. So good afternoon, evening, morning, depending on what part of the world you're in. And again, Happy New Year. This is our second chicken box of 2022. So good to be here with some of my favorite people. I'm Frances Tony Draper, CEO and publisher of the AFRO. And I am, as you can see on the screen, a MB, a millennial boomer.
Oh, I thought you got another degree on us. Dr. Bolwell, we got a millennial boomer. I'm a Gen Xer. Misha Green.
Yes, I don't know. Am I frozen? Can y'all hear me?
But at least you're frozen with a smile. You know, sometimes you can be frozen with a look. I mean, it's the best frozen I've ever seen.
Yes, I'm feeling blessed that this is my version of frozen because I can see where it is. But yes, I'm feeling good. I'm representing for the boomer millennials of the world, those millennials who have an old soul, those of us who appreciate our generations before us. And so I really am excited about this episode in particular because I love the community activist edition because it gives us an opportunity to learn a lot about the people before us, but also the people who are doing amazing things to this day.
Absolutely. You look like a ventriloquist. Welcome to the Chicken Box, everybody. We are hanging out. This is Black people versus community activists. And we also have today joining us our managing editor, Dr. Bolwell. How are you?
I'm just great. Good afternoon, everybody. I represent the I don't want to say old people. I represent the older people who keep getting younger and younger. How about that?
We'll go with that. Go with that. Listen, this is a new year. It's Misha Green making it back. Sounds like she's coming back on. But we're gonna get started. We want to get into it. Black people versus community activists. If you've been following us for a while, we have a special monthly edition that we do. After 130 years, we would always do sections. But during this past year, we've been doing a We're Still Here edition, and we have been taking a whole newspaper. That's right, I said a newspaper. Yes, we have social media. Yes, we have afro.com, but we have been doing a whole newspaper, and this time we're highlighting community activists. So, Dr. Draper, do you want to tell us a little bit about this edition and really what it means? Because I know you've been a community activist for a long time.
So thank you, Kevin. So as you said, we're doing these special editions, these keepsake editions once a week. And this is the week that we, just put all of our other content on afro.com and dedicate every single page to whatever the topic is. And so this time we are doing community activists. And of course, we're highlighting Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as we pause to celebrate his birth. But we're with his daughter. There ought not be any celebration until we have full voting rights, but that's another chicken box for another time. And we're also, well, not for another time, it's another chicken box, and the time really is now. So we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, soon. We also are highlighting mothers of the movement, local community activists, and then we have our 22 Afro activist list. And this year we're celebrating queens of the movement, queens of the movement. And so is Misha back? I don't
No.
see Misha's not back, but we have a guest today. And so Kevin, I don't know if you want to introduce her at this time, or you
Well,
want or you want
I was hoping Misha Greenwood, but I can bring her on.
I'm here-ish for whatever reason. Now, y'all saw me 5 minutes ago. Am I correct? I was there and my camera was there. For whatever reason, it's telling me that my camera is not working. So in a second, I'm going to try to my iPad. But in between time, I am here. You see my voice waves moving along in my headshot.
We see it.
But were you saying my name in order to introduce our guests?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I am really excited to introduce our guest today. She is an amazing photographer and multifaceted woman, really in the area. She does so much. But I will let her brag about herself in a second. I will say that she is a native to here and lived between here and Cali, and we recently featured her in the AFRO for an exhibit that she was in, and she has a lot coming up, so this won't be the last. But for our community activist edition highlighting Black women of the movement, we wanted to make sure that we had a woman photographer who could really share their stories and narratives. And I think you all will see that their activism and their light shines through these images. So without further ado, welcome everybody, Lisa Brown of Heal Her Photography.
What's up,
Hey,
Lisa?
everybody.
I
Hey.
know, like you want to ring a bell and go bam, 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 bam. You want to do all of that, but welcome to the Chicken Box, guys. I didn't even say it before I say Lisa. Before I let you tell us about Heal Her, on the box is where we dispel stereotypes, so we speak our truths. But if you're from the Baltimore area, you know a chicken box has a double entendre. One, it's full wings and fries, salt, pepper, ketchup. You want a half, and half, which is in some parts of the country, Arnie Palmer, but sweet tea, right? It can't be unsweetened tea. It's got to be sweet tea, and it has to be lemonade. So I just want to put that disclaimer. But this box is where you come speak your truth, Lisa. So welcome to the famous Chicken Box.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone inviting me here in your space today. I appreciate it.
Tell us about Heal Her Photography.
So Heal Her Photography is my company. It's a fine arts gallery, and also photography services, a portrait lifestyle, and sometimes other things. I mainly hang and show in galleries and museums. I usually don't do photojournalist at all. Um, that's been a company I established 2020 after coming back from Nigeria for some time. Um, and I decided I'm from Southeast, and I've had a long career as being a licensed vet tech. And I've always had a hobbyist as being a photographer. And I picked my camera back up and changed my career.
Did you say a vet tech?
I'm a licensed vet tech.
For those of you who don't know, I guess y'all can figure it out. But how did you? What made you inspire you to be a vet tech?
Um,
I'm sure you still love animals.
oh, I adore animals. They're so much better than people. I'm from Southeast DC, born and raised. My dad's from Compton, born and raised. So I have a very appreciation for wildlife, pets, exotic animals, and then always having a camera as a child. And I decided to go into a science field. I was always pushed in school to go into a science field, and I took that serious. I volunteered quite a bit of my life. to different animal hospitals, shelters, um, nonprofits that saved and rescued animals throughout DC, Maryland, Virginia, and Compton, and even National Park Services. Um, and then finally, I got to college. I finished my associates at a school in Arizona, and I did that for quite a bit of a time. I worked for DC's shelter. I've worked in private sectors. I worked in research labs at Georgetown. I've worked in many different settings of animals. I worked in a holistic practice in Bethesda for years. So I have all around experience from rodents to domesticated pets to exotic animals. But I never put down my camera. And when it was time for me to have a career change, I fully stepped into that. And I'm doing well. I feel really good about my career change. I feel like again, I'm still doing something that is it needs to be seen. Black people of color need to be seen in a gallery setting. People need to walk into a museum and see themselves. Um, they need to be able to relate to art. Um, I focus mainly on women, women of color, women that are minorities. So maybe even at times women who are Emmerich, women who are Ethiopian, women who are Moorish, women who are Amish, our Latina community. They need to be seen. They need to be heard. When you go to Art Basel and you don't see anything that looks like you don't buy it. And it's not
Mm.
because you don't appreciate the art, it's because you can't relate with it. You're not going to bring something into your home or your business that you don't reflect with. So I am still making a active change. This is activism. My camera is a weapon. I will take pictures of everything, and I have to people being mistreated, to police arresting people. I've also, taken pictures of people coming to drum circle, people performing rituals, spiritual rituals, private and public. Um, I'm very much so involved in DC's community and Baltimore. I went to CCBC. I have another degree in Africana film. I very much so have utilized my elders, my community, to tap me into places where I should be, where I shouldn't be, where I need to be, and to document that through still photography.
Wow, Lisa Brown, ladies and gentlemen, if you just tuned into the Chicken Box, Lisa Brown, I don't, you look like you're not even 25, or but you had years of everything, and it seems like I went through your whole life, and you have so much life to live, and I love your lens that you come through, and welcome to the Chicken
Thank you.
Box, especially as this wonderful issue where we're celebrating community activists, and this is we're still here. This is Black people versus the community activists. Now we have a thing where you get on the box for 30 seconds and you speak your truth. So my question today, as we started off, is: do we need community activists, and what are they? Jump on the box, somebody. Dr. Boulware, do we need community activists, and
We
what
abs-
are
we absolutely need community activists. My working definition is that an activist is somebody who sees something that needs doing and they do it. And it
mm,
doesn't matter if anybody else is already doing it. If it needs to be done, they do it. They do it in their own unique way. And they do it because doing it is their life breath. And most of us are frustrated because we see things that need doing and we complain and we, gripe, and we sometimes criticize those who are doing it, but not to our satisfaction. But we all just need to put our hands to it and get it done, and our communities would be a lot stronger if we did that.
absolutely, Dr. Draper?
I love that definition. So, I mean, only thing I would add is that, and Reverend Bulware alluded to it, it's doing it for the benefit of the community. It's not like you see your closet needs to be cleaned out and you do it. I mean, that's the activism of sorts. it helps your it may help your personal community. But when I think about community activists, they're people who, as our managing editor said, don't just complain about the fact that you don't like the way the schools are run, or you think the trash needs to be picked up, or you think there needs to be representation in film, in on pictures, in museums, but you actually do something about it. And you sometimes when I think about community activism, I don't have the same skill as a Lisa Brown, right? But I can support what she does, and that's still a form of community activism. And so the AFRO, for example, we're community activists because we report on things that need to be done, and we report on people who are doing them. And there are times that we will take up a whole campaign ourselves and say, come on, let's do it together. So that's how I think of community activism.
Absolutely, Dr. Draper. Misha Green, you want to chime in? I know you want to. I see you itching. Jump in.
Yeah, no, I've appreciated everyone's definition thus far, and I love Rev's notion of just doing it. When I say that, I always say somebody's Nikeing that. They're just doing it, and I really think Nike has not sponsored the AFRO. Y'all can. You're more than welcome, but they have not done so yet. Let me make that clear.
Yeah, right. Like no freebies for them.
No freebies for them. But anyway, but I say that to say that what I've learned here recently about community activists, having been involved myself since really I'd say 2011, 2012, sort of around the time of Trayvon Martin, is that it's really about people who have a very deep understanding of how some people may perceive as small or local or community issues affect generations and affect how decisions are made on larger scales. I have the benefit of living in the nation's capital and being from here. And so, at a very young adult age, I was able to understand how national decisions really affect local government, particularly because Washington, D.C. is not a state. But I think community activists and learning about Carl Murphy in particular, who I wrote about in this special edition, it's people who have a very, very deep understanding that locally things need to be done that can affect a larger worldview. And even if it doesn't, they don't care about the larger worldview at the time. It's that this needs to happen right now, and it gets done. And I love the ripple effect that can happen from it.
Lisa Brown, hop on the box. Do we need
So
it?
being from a place, not, being from South Side, not Southeast. I'm from 3rd Street. I'm from Brothers Place. I'm from MLK.
Tell us
I'm
about
from,
3rd Street. I mean, because
I'm
people are watching from all over the world. Like we in Baltimore, I know Southeast, and usually if
from
you
the
say
part of
South,
I'm from a part of DC that most people never and have never been, and they will
right.
never cross. I don't care if they came to get their degree, they came to get their wife or husband, they started to start a corporation. They've been to Southeast. They've been to the baseball stadium.
Mm.
They've been down to the Anacostia Art Center area. They have never been past St. Elizabeth Hospital. They have never known how it feels to live next door to the largest mental institution on the East Coast. They can't speak and be from my perspective. I'm from Compton. Like, they have never walked down Compton Boulevard. You will hear people often say, "Oh, I've been to LA." You have never been to Compton. You have never been to Compton. You don't know how it feels to be in a community. People know you. People know your mother, your uncle. They know your dog if it ran down the street. They know it. I saw somebody in your car. Is that your car? This is community. I don't ever think that someone becomes an active because they probably didn't live in a community. They lived in a neighborhood. They lived in a suburb. They did not live in a community of people who cared and loved about them, because to me, everyone in that community is an activist. The drunk man down the street, what you doing out here? It's 11 o'clock. You're supposed to be at school. He will walk you to school. I saw your daughter 11 o'clock. I think she playing hooky. Let me borrow $1 for you to get this drink. That's an that
Absolutely.
cracky that everybody want to dismiss, That crackhead is John's mother.
Right.
And she asked for some food. So
Absolutely.
my mama popped out something she cooked last week that's in the freezer and gave it to John mother. I like, John, you good? We ain't need to discuss it. This is activism. So I don't think no one is left out. If you live in a real community, no one's ever leaving you out because we already do that. We saw somebody near your car. Hey, what you doing near that car? That ain't your car.
Boom.
Don't, everybody in my community where I grew up at, Mary Bailey down the street, he saw me one day. He said, what you about to do? Why you not at school? I said, I messed the bus. He said, you ain't got 60 cents to get on the bus. I'm not lying about it. I live on Brother's Place. I live right down the street from his house. He said, you ain't had 60 cents to get on the bus. I said, yeah, I got 60 cents, but it's going to cost me $1.20 to get on the P6 to get the Southwest from Southeast. He said, he go $5. If I catch you back up here, I'm going to file out of the. And I said, okay. His wife came to that bus stop at 6:45 in the morning. She said, hey, Lisa, you going to school? It's not about your job position. It's not about your age. It's about you living in a community. Do you even know what my children look like? Lots of people say they live in a community. They don't. They don't even know who the local cat woman is. She be feeding the cats behind the seat. I know my cat ladies. I know them from Capitol Heights to Southwest. I get them bags of cat food every winter so they don't spend their food stamps on food and then feed the cats, but they can feed themselves. This is activism is a community based, and lots of people these days don't live in a community.
Boom. She's on the box.
She is on the box.
She on the box.
We need a guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Listen. We're gonna have to do a whole show on community versus neighborhood. The community versus the neighborhood. That's a new show. Taylor, our editor, producer, put it on.
Because there's a lot of people who live there and they not part of your community. They didn't call the police. I got a friend, he died on Park Road. A white lady moved on Water Street. She called the police. This is a real true story. You can Google it in the Washington Post or whoever news reported it. She said he got a knife and a pit bull. The police came, they shot him 6 times from the window of the car. 6 elderly people looked out their window and told the manager who came on site, we saw the police shoot him, not question him, not stop him, not tackle him, not spray. This is common. A lot of people don't live in a community. And that lady then reported and said she was sorry. He was dead. They let him bleed out. They handcuff you. They let you bleed out. And if everybody know, Water Street and Columbia Road, you can look at Washington Hospital Center. Like you're looking at the window to the door of the hospital. You don't live in a community no more. These are real issues. There are people in your community that's not part of your community.
That's right.
If don't come to DC and don't want to be part of the community, you're in the wrong place. You need to go live somewhere where you live in the country, where you can be 10 acres away from your neighbor and you don't need to know me.
Absolutely.
This is a city. We are a community.
Just tuned in.
I don't care which part you better be part. I know people that's green that I grew up with. That's part of my community. I know the carry-out man. I know his children. They went to school with my children. We know him. We know him and know him well, and his ex-wife. We know everybody. You're not gonna leave my community. I know everything about it. We're gonna make sure you get happy. Mm-hmm.
We live here. We coming to your block when it warms up, Lisa, and see your community. If you just tuned in, this is Black People versus Community Activists. AFRO.com, y'all. We've been doing it for 130 years. If you don't have a subscription, listen, we're not owned by any other community. No other community owns the AFRO. For 130 years, we have been fighting for our own and supported by our own mainly. And then the other corporations that believe in us. But how can you help? Get a subscription. It's less than 2 Uber Eats or whatever you do with your money, but it's information that gets to you all year long and allows you to meet people like Lisa Brown in the community. So visit afro.com, get a subscription, give one. You don't have to be Christmas time to give somebody a gift. It goes a long, long way. Misha Green, I didn't get on. I'm not even gonna get on the box. Lisa, you covered everybody's box about community, but what are those digital streets talking about when we talk?
Whew, the digital streets have been talking a lot about activists, and I couldn't give you all the direct quotes like I normally do because some of it was just wild. You know, it's all over the place. Unfortunately, there's so much happening where so many people are actively talking in their community and addressing certain things. I mean, today, as I was fine tuning the script, I looked on my phone and there were kids staging a walkout for their mask policy. If that's not a community activist, I don't know what it is. You know, these are high schoolers, right? I don't know if I necessarily agree. I need to do some research on that. But I think it's good that they're standing up for what they believe in. And so these are sort of general things based off of the many things the digital streets had to say about community activists. Some of these came from memes, and some of these are hashtags. And again, as I always must stress, these are not at all endorsements from the Afro American newspapers. Okay, so community activists always want to turn to politicians. Activists are extremists, and there's a whole hashtag against that saying activists, not extremists. Uh, and then I have activists are brave soldiers. Activists are on the front line. You're not an activist if you're not on the front line. And then there's this whole thing, and maybe this might be a cool place for you guys to enter on what you all think about it. But there are several organizations. I won't even call it these organizations, social media trolls and social media pages that go against Black Lives Matter because the founders are Black women. But then there's this whole piece additionally that, I mean, I've seen several disparaging memes about because they are queer women. So I have that Black women activists are lesbian is one of the stereotypes. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say based off of what the digital streets have to say.
Well, I'm gonna jump on the box real quick on part of that. So for that last one that you spoke of in terms of Black women being lesbian, being queer, if they're activists, somebody doesn't know their history because that has nothing to do with being a community activist. That's irrelevant to keep us from talking about Black Lives Matter or critical race theory. And nobody's saying that other lives don't matter, but sometimes we get off message trying to answer what the crazy things that are out there on whether they're on social media or any place else. And so I'm not going to dignify some of that. And I know those are just stereotypes, but activists, as Lisa said, and she'll probably weigh in because I see her itching to get back on the box. Activism can happen from your kitchen table.
Sure.
It can happen in your family. It can happen a whole lot of places. And yes, it has to happen politically as well. Because if we don't have activists who are actively, going down to Annapolis here in Maryland and other places to talk about what laws need to be changed, we stay in the same place that we are in some cases. And so we need all kinds of activists, right? We need the activists that are going to go to the school board. We also need the activists that are going to organize a neighborhood and say, hey, you know what? All of us are going to go to the school board, or all of us are going to talk to the teachers, or all of us are going to make sure that everybody in this neighborhood rises. And so, yeah, there's so many stereotypes, and there are a lot of talking heads too. Mm-hmm. People are just like talk a good game and don't do anything. I'm off the box.
Boom, Lisa.
Okay, so these are people who have they have, when your grandma took you to the library and told you to pick a book, they picked that book that now. Because they would have, if they would have read just that one that a little bit thicker, they would have realized that behind most activation, and I say activation, most activation are in a very ton of Black women. When people talk about the March on Washington, women were scrubbing clothes by hand in DC. Women were taking their Wednesday through Sunday dinner and pack it into smaller bags so men can eat. People, like I heard that there's one woman in Northeast, her whole family is well known for pressing out men's suit. So when they walk, they look nice. Like she actually left her job to iron men's suits. Like people understand under all activism that has happened in North America. Behind that activism was a group of Black women, regardless of their sexual orientation, they didn't care. We're actually powwowing. How are we going to get through this financially? Transportation. People were busted. People were planes. When there were disasters back in the day that happened in Haiti and other islands, the Bahamas, there were a group of Black women who gave the money up for that plane for CD Portier to put the stuff on there. Or the baseball player from Cuba. It was a group of Black and Latino women who got that plane for him and drove that plane that crashed, that he didn't put all his money. Like people need to understand under all activism, even Jewish women, there were Black women sitting in that room rubbing them nickels together and them dimes to get that done. So I'm very ashamed of the people who would do this. I would also like to say what statistics has taught us is that we are people with different mind strokes. And so we are outliers, which is a big thing because then we make a small group of outliers, which is statistically usually impossible. We are not the commonality. We are not the common folks. We are the outliers. And for a group of us to exist, that may look very strange to the normal, and that's okay. It's okay that I'm different as hell. I am different. I am different. You ain't got to like it. You ain't got to love it. But I like that you different too. And that's what's going to make us all common. So we create a commoncy and a normalcy within our own community of outliers. That is hard for the majority of those people to understand. And these people that troll the internet, that's okay too, because sooner or later they have to face somebody like me, like me and my camera and my homegirl and all my elders that's behind me. They're going to have to face that. And they're going to have to work with me, regardless if they liked it or not. I'm going to make it to the point that they have no other choice but to meet all of everybody in the room right now and be like, dang, I got to talk to you. Yeah. I'll be ready with a smile too. Like you said, you ain't gonna like me. You gonna love me with my smile.
Right, y'all. We said it earlier. I don't know if you started your day off or if you smiled at all today. Please smile. Just try it. Just Kirk Franklin just said, just smile. Come on, y'all. I'm saying impeccable. Say, let's smile a little bit. You know what I mean? And then let's get to work. Everybody can spur activism or activation in their area. You're not called to do everything to everybody, but where you are, you can affect one person's life. I like to activate an activist, be an activist for your mind, to encourage you to think in a different way. You don't have to think like everybody. This is Black people versus community activism. We have a whole legacy edition, the newspaper, the AFRO, 130 years on the subject. And we celebrate all of our activists. And you have to go and look inside. It's not just the names that you hear and we stand on their shoulders, but it's not just those names that you hear that we've heard over the years. There are several others. I wanted to jump on the box real quick before we go. I moved to a different neighborhood. I live in Atlanta now. I'm from Baltimore, and Atlanta has a lot of Black communities. In some parts of Atlanta, if you see a person of another ethnicity or race, it's like, whoa, what are they doing over here? But that's kind of how you feel sometimes because there's so many African Americans in a community. But I moved recently, and I moved into an area that was mixed. So I thought, and then I found out about the history of this area. And this particular street, it was built, houses were built by ex World War II veterans. But you know how a street will intersect with another street and then the next block is usually the same street? Back in the day, other races, our Caucasian brothers and sisters, did not want to live on the same street as these African American vets. So they changed the name. But this is the point I'm trying to make. When we first moved, you would think community sometimes is all Black, but we got here, we're seeing these Black Lives Matter signs. And typically, Black people don't put Black Lives Matter signs on their front yard, typically. most of the time it's your other brothers and sisters who are in the movement with you. But this block had a community. They were having a bonfire on their yard. And I was like, okay, I don't know what we're doing here, but y'all but got a ping pong table out there, and they invited the whole block to come. They have an email list. They watch out for their block. They know everybody's name on the block. They can tell you who moved in, who's this. We got Asian, we have white, we have black, we have seniors, we have young, we have millennial. Everybody has now formed that community. So it really struck a chord, Lisa, when you said community. And that's not always going to look exactly just like your color, but community has really no color. So I just wanted to say that. I'm off the box. Let's keep it moving. Dorothy Bower, tell me how you felt about this when you were putting this issue together. Uh, and you and your team with this year's community activist edition.
Well, I like the idea of being able to recognize people who often are not recognized, people who are changing the world, sometimes just from the corner of their street. For instance, and he's not in our issue. If you guys know the group Mentoring Males in the Hood, Cameron Miles has been working with those young guys. I don't even know the number of years, but it's long enough that now some of those he worked with are coming back to mentor and help teach some of the current guys. But very few people even know about Cameron Miles. And, you know, he needs encouragement. He needs people to go up there and talk to the guys and let them know they can be whatever they desire to be, that they can get the support they need. We have so many people like this in our community that we don't even have enough pages to recognize them all. Eartha Harris, I think, was the person who did the organizing for Maryland for the Million Man March. You know, she did a bang up job, and we very rarely hear her name. There's so many people. So this gave us the opportunity to just get our young people out there and tell just a little bit of their story and what they're doing. Some of them are feeding the hungry. Some of them are clothing people. Some of them are creating opportunities for people where there have been no opportunities. And that's our greatest joy, is telling stories. And so we really enjoyed putting this together. And we have the monumental challenge every year, finding something unique to say about Dr. King. That's always a challenge because it's been a while. But this year we asked some of our leaders, what is it that you wish the world knew about Dr. King? What have we overlooked? What is it that we missed that we really need to have in our justice toolkits? So you will see some very interesting essays and responses to those questions when you go on afro.com and read some of the copy, if you're not a subscriber or a member of the Afro family. So we enjoyed it immensely. We asked the young people to dress up in their finest, and Lisa took these dynamic photos and everything. So check us out. Usually around the third week of the month, we have a special edition.
And you can get that special edition. It's coming to you. It's gonna come right to your home. Look, the pandemic has we not on the set at the 7-Elevens and all on the corner stores no more. It's coming. You don't even have to look for it. It's gonna come right with your mail whenever that
Yep.
comes. But it's gonna come right with your mail. You could get the paper and the digital subscription. Why do we say this, y'all? Because when we deal with advertisers and we say we've been around for 130 years, they want to know, okay, well, what kind of community does the Afro have? Mm-hmm. And now everything these days is built in their analytic communities. You know what I mean? And they're looking at this number and how much engagement. So leave a comment. Thank you for engaging. Those out there, if I didn't say thank you for tuning in and listening, I'm going to say thank you, Michelle, Anita. You know what? I turned over 50. I know y'all might not know it, but I need some glasses. Lenora, everybody else.
I can.
I'm just saying, when did the fonts get so small, y'all? I'm just asking.
Dwayne, everybody. And I wanted to shout out Michelle's comment about, she said, let's not forget the activism of the artistic community, writers, artists, singers, songwriters, and photographers, which thank you, Michelle Green. Are you my cousin, Michelle? We need to figure this out.
I think those are
But
family, Lisa. That's a spell for
I
those are
really
family.
appreciate that comment and want to lift that up because I think we really attempted to make that clear in this edition in particular. We do highlight a lot of artivists, as they call themselves, and now is a term that has been coined. Artivism is a major thing. As Lisa said earlier, her picking up her camera is a major form of community activism. But we have actors, we have singers, we have dancers, we have people who help teach reading, we have several writers on our community activists this year. We're intentionally intergenerational this year. Last year, we highlighted activists under 35. This year, it's all women. We're calling them the queens of the movement. And we have from age 17 to 66. And each one of them, I contend, are artists in their own right, as well as activists. So thank you, Michelle, for bringing up that comment. And again, I encourage everybody to check out the community activist list that comes out today. We have 21 amazing women from ages 17 to 66. I will also say we have not come up with our theme for next year, but just start sending us activists now, y'all. We want to do this photo shoot a little bit earlier next year. It was fabulous, and thank you again to Lisa to have that done. But we want some variety to maybe take it outside and things like that. So we're going to get it done in 2022 to honor our folks in 2023. So as you all take a look at this list, start thinking about some folks that you know in your community. I also want to shout out Reverend Annie Chambers. We highlighted her in our community activist edition last year. Reverend Bullweir told me all about her, and I had the most amazing interview with her last year. But she is truly, I think, that example that Lisa talked about of just a mama in the community who did something, who recognized everything that needed to be done. I also should say part of her activism, which was from a teenager to this day, and she is at this point one of our elders, is that she has like 19 kids. And so she has raised all of those children to also very much care about their community. And she jokes that she has hundreds because, of course, she has picked up tons of kids from the movement, right, who look at her as a mother. And it just made me think, because we talked about the 1963 March on Washington. Reverend Annie Chambers had one of her 19 babies on the road to the march. And she said she had that baby. Her dad came and met her at the hospital. She's from Baltimore, so she, probably had the baby somewhere in between. And then went down and had.
Misha, you on the roll, so you might as well just go into Afro fact. I mean, we're gonna let you just roll right into the Afro fact, okay? Because you rolling right now.
All right, I guess I can do just that. Well, let's go into the Afro fact of this week. This week's Afro fact, I think, is super appropriate for the Community Activist Edition because it not only talks about sort of the community activists we all think about, but also his holiday is coming up. And that is about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This week's Afro fact is inspired by the January 13th, 1968 edition. And it's a little bit ironic. The headline reads, "Will Dr. King be next in anti-war crackdown?" And we know the irony because sadly, Dr. King died 3 months later in April. But this article was not talking about would he be next, as in he be the next to die. It had to do about the government going after King's associates for their anti-draft rhetoric surrounding the Vietnam War. And the article says, the question is posed in the wake of the Boston grand jury's Friday indictments of the 5 prominent members of the peace movement, all associates of Dr. King. I mean, can you all just imagine they're going after people called the peace movement? Anyway, those indicted were Dr. Benjamin Spock, world famous pediatrician, the Reverend William Sloane Coffin, chaplain of Yale University, Mitchell Goodman, a 44-year-old New York writer and teacher, Marcus Raskin, a 33-year-old co-director of Washington private research organization, the Institute for Police Studies, and Michael Fieber, who was a 23-year-old Harvard graduate student. So, seemingly harmless human beings that they're going after because they're speaking out against the war. And I thought that, again, these were people very active in their communities. And that is this week's Afro Fact.
Boom. Where has the time gone? Black people versus activists. We're going to get on the box one more time because we got to let Lisa Brown close it out. If you missed Lisa Brown early on in the show, she has some clips that are social media worthy, that are worthy for you to play back in your own head to get your life together. If you don't think you in a community, or if you fooling around and if you don't know your neighbor's name. Matter of fact, my neighbor herds cats and they'll be on my car all the time, but I don't know how I feel about that, Lisa. But anyway, we're gonna keep it moving. Dr. Draper, final word on the box.
Final words, and maybe our producer Taylor can pull this up before we're off. There is a group called Boxx in Progress, and they do documentaries on different things. And I'm going to be on a panel with them on Monday, this coming Monday, discussing the film, the documentary Soldiers Without Swords. Why do I bring that up? Because so often the Black press is overlooked as activists. And so I'm talking about the Black-owned press. I'm not talking about folk who write about Black people and somebody else is funding their enterprises. And so the Black-owned press. And so a lot of times we hear about Frederick Douglass's North Star, or Ida Barnett Wells's, or Marcus Garvey's. But if it wasn't for the Black press putting our stories out and activating activating, is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah, it used to be for a Jerry curl. I think you was activating it. Anyway, keep going. I'm sorry.
Being activists, and I'm talking about Black-owned media, totally. We would not have our voice. And so this is a shameless plug. Let's not really shameless. Let's support the Black-owned media, whether it's photography services, radio, television, newspapers, most of whom now are digital, but we need to support that. And so if you have a chance, it's Monday evening. I think it's around 8:00. Taylor, if you can find it's called Boxx in Progress. But what I want to call your attention to that group, because they are doing community documentaries, and they are looking for projects, and they are looking for suggestions. And so who knows, Lisa Brown, they might want to talk about yours.
Absolutely. And you're off the box. Dr. Boulware, our managing editor, who you live in another country. No, you live in another state, but you're from Baltimore and you've been with us several different times. And we appreciate your service, and we appreciate every time you come and get on the box. Final words about activism this year.
Teach your children to be activists. When I was a kid, my grandmother made me scrub the older people's steps and run errands to the stores for them. And while I was mad, she wouldn't let me take any money from them, but she taught me that those were my people and that was my community, and it was my responsibility to take care of them, to keep the streets clean and all those kind of things. So we started off young, and from there we started knocking on doors and registering people to vote. So start your kids while they're young. When they see something they want to do, help them do it and support them, and it'll just keep growing as they grow. I'm off the box.
Absolutely. I love it. You said take them. No kid feels like doing anything, whether it's going to church or scrubbing. They trying to stay in front of that screen. Take them. You got to drag them. You know what I mean? That's the kind of drugs that they can be on. You can drag them a couple of different places. Okay, Misha Green, final words.
So I want to thank Lisa and all of our community activists for your willingness to, first of all, the work that you're doing every single day in the community, but your willingness to be a part of our project highlighting activists. And I just really, really want to thank you, Lisa, in particular, for all that you have shared with us today. It really means a lot. And I know a lot of people are moved. I also want to say that I forgot to mention that we will be highlighting members of the family, particularly as it relates to the Afro's founding and our history monthly in the special edition, in our We're Still Here special edition. I said earlier we did Carl Murphy. It's I jokingly call it Carl in the community, but I was so incredibly inspired by his, he's sort of a man behind the scenes, but you can't be but so behind the scenes when your publication is going to 200,000 people around the country and world. And he truly was an activist with the words and with his dedication to making sure that our stories were told, as well as making change. I found out the day he died, what he had fought for most of his life was interracial, stopping the illegality of interracial marriage in Maryland. And the day he died, it passed. And I can only hope that Mr. Murphy died with a smile on his face, knowing that that work got done and hit. So I want to say that as well. And then finally, I just want to say, I believe that the best way to be a community activist is by remembering that equity and golden rule of treating others how you want to be treated. And so I really, really think that if we all just say, well, this person doesn't have this, or I don't think it's right that this person doesn't have these rights, or so and so can't get school lunch. I think that that's a very easy way for us to address things in our community by thinking about equity.
Thank you, Misha. Before I let our guest get on the box, I'm going to jump on because her final words are going to be what we need to hear. I love the fact that you brought up Carl Murphy. I love the fact that the Afro American newspaper is Maryland's oldest family owned Black business in the state, and we are the third oldest in the country. That's something we activated people to think about business. For those of you who have started a business before and it ended, 130 years is a long, long time. While people are doing these 10-year challenges, we can go back and do 100-year challenges. And that's something to say. And it's all been archived. And we will be displaying those archives in our new headquarters as it's being built during the pandemic. Stay tuned for that. We are celebrating women, y'all, 2022. We have our Black Business Matters conference coming up in March. Lisa, you will be invited. This is Women Who Win. Okay, put that market calendar. I'll get a date further, but just Black Business Matters. We created it during the pandemic, and it does matter, and we're going to keep pushing forward. And the women, the bosses, they out there doing their thing, and we're going to celebrate the women who win in business. So stay tuned for that. Be activated, y'all. I hope your mind's activated. And Lisa Brown.
Kevin, before Lisa gets on, Misha mentioned Carl Murphy. I did the top of the page on Vashti Turley Murphy because she was an activist in her own right. So we can do the rest of it. All right, Lisa Brown.
Thank you so much, Misha, for just thinking of me in this situation of saying, I remember this is somebody, and I remember she got a camera. Won't you come? Won't you just come in here? Somebody that's in your community, in your circle, and think, I remember you doing this. Won't you come over? And that even being more of a full circle piece. And I think growing up in DC, my neighbor was the dentist, and there was Howard up the street. There's so much community going on. You kind of forget sometimes of the multifaceted of people. You forget sometimes that this person may have this station and newspaper, but they also may know how to knit or sew, or they may have a barber shop in the back of it. There's so much of that we do as one person. It is it elevates us. It elevates us. I can't be thankful enough that you thought about me. I can't be more thankful that you brought me. Hey Lisa, we're gonna do the chicken box tomorrow. You want to do it? And I was like, yeah. Hearing the name, and Just like, yeah, I don't know what it's really about, but let me see. It's being inquisitive to say thank you to bring me to this platform. Thank you so much. Um, I think I've, you know, learned the best, like she said, is just starting from your community as a child. um Having someone say, hey, go check on Miss such and such up the street, just knock on the door and say, my grandpa wanted me to check on you, you all right in here? Go walk somebody's dog. You're young, you're take the dog, put it on a leash, go for a walk, you're like, your dog in the yard, okay, have a good day. you know Someone offering to help. Hey, you having problems in that math class? Come sit on the front porch with me and let's do these timetables. That is something. That's how I grew up. You didn't, I have no other way of looking at a different perspective. And the more and more I get out of other countries, and I get to live in other countries, I see more of that than I do here. And it's really shameful that people put them as third world countries, but yet they still live in a community. And we collectively also are letting it go. So I am thankful to be on this platform. I'm thankful to pick up my photography again. I invite you all and everyone listening to come to my webpage, my Instagram, my webpage I have, and come out to one of my either showcases as a group or come out to my solo show I'll be having in DC on April 8th at the DC Arts Center. I'm in, I think, right now 9 different shows that'll be running from January until April. I have 3 shows in DC with many minority based ran businesses. Um, my work is for sale. I am up for hire for photography. Um, I enjoy my work. I enjoy making people smile. I was so happy to meet these women that she brought in the room. Some I knew and some I never knew. And now I have a relationship with them. I was so inquisitive. I was like, wow, you run their company and you do what in our community? Wow, I never even knew that. Like, I always am a student. And I was so happy to hear Afro News is hosting these women and hosting what they do and how they evolved themselves in this community or started a business. I was blown away, and I get to take their picture. I was floored, and so this was a very. I was, to be honest with you, at the end of the day, I didn't feel like I did a shoot. I felt like I left with a smile on my face and a camera. I was happy. I was extremely happy. So thank you guys for involving me. Thank you guys for. I can't wait to see the pictures on site. And these women had such a big glow. They were glowing. They were glowing. I really mean they were glowing. I was smiling from ear to ear. I hope everything shows just the way we
Oh, it's
met.
showing, Lisa. It's showing. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the thought of the day is take a camera and a smile. You're like, I don't have a camera. Yes, you do. Your phone is a camera, so you can have a camera and a smile. Take that along with you all day and photograph something that you think is beautiful. This has been another episode of the Chicken Box. Lisa Brown, our special guest, will be inviting you back as we do community versus neighborhood.
Thank you.
Misha Green, thank you. Dr. Bower, always a pleasure to have you join us. And of course, our fearless leader, Dr. Draper. Until we meet again, don't take it for granted that you're going to see somebody. Craig Talley said, Happy Founders Day for the women of Delta Sigma.
Yes, I'm
Say
so
that.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Draper, happy
Yes.
Founders Day.
Happy Founders
Happy
Day.
Founders Day to our someone very important to our founding, if you will, or our history. And the founder of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Vashti Turley Murphy. I am so sorry. That was the first thing I wanted to say on the episode. My
Don't worry
apologies.
about it. We got it in. It's better late than that. We said it.
Yes.
We said it. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it. If you ain't say Happy New Year to somebody, you can say it tonight, tomorrow. You can still say it. It still feels good every time you say it. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Smile and take your camera. And for you laugh sometimes at our Asian brothers and sisters, but they are always capturing the moment. So don't miss the moment because it's happening. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.